Welcome, my name's Sam and this is The Little Greenhouse Creates. Thank you for joining me today. We are on our third project for this week's stamp set of the week, Gingerbread Man. And as it's Friday, we are going for a funky fold. So the card will stand like this. It's got panels either side and it protrudes out. But for posting, you can tuck it in like normal and then it pops out for the recipient and then you write on the back. So let me bring in the supplies and we can create our card. So the first thing we need, let's pull this along. Okay, so we have a piece of Poppy Parade. This measures 8 inches by 5 3/4. I have a piece of Mossy Meadow, 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. You'll need 2 pieces of this that measure 3 1/2 by 5 1/4. One for the back and one to be embossed. I have used the dotted circles to do my embossing. There it is. So there are my 2 pieces of white. And then you'll need scrap paper to create your gingerbread man. And then I have 4 strips, each measuring 3/4 inch by 5 1/2. Let me just double check that. Yeah, by 5 1/2. All measurements will be on my blog later, so don't worry. There we go. So we'll get 2 there, there, and there. Right. For my let's put these aside here. I have a strip which is 3/4 inch by 3 1/4. That's for my sentiment. So for my gingerbread man, I have used the basic beige again, but I only need half of him. So literally cut 2 out and then just slice, so you can actually make 2 cards. So that's that one. And then I've got my sweet die. So I've cut it out in white and I've also cut it out in red because I wasn't sure which colour I was going to go for. Then there's this little like wheel that goes over the top. So I did exactly the same. I cut one out in white to go on the red and one in red to go on the white. I've also given him a bow tie. So let's pop this aside over here. This can be a normal bow, but for this gentleman, it's going to be a bow tie. I've cut it out in red, and I've also cut it out in lemon lime twist, which I probably are going to use. And these are the colours of the designer series paper that I've used. Now, these are old stash Christmas papers from last year, but because they're in just kind of strips, I didn't want to run into tear up a perfectly good piece of designer series paper when it could just use some scraps. So that's what I've done. And if you notice, I've cut them in, I'm trying to line them up, cut them in line. So I've cut them. What you'll see is then that way the red line, the green line all follow through when you stick it down. Right, so let's put our dies aside. We are going to start with the stamping as usual. Right, pop this over here. So the first thing I want you to do is show you how to stamp your gingerbread man. Now, it is quite a big floppy gingerbread man. He needs to be loose. You don't need to manipulate him because he needs to just create the shape that goes on. So my best thing is either to throw him down like that and put your block over the top, or vice versa, just throw him onto the block. Don't try and push him into any shape. That way he keeps the shape he's meant to be and we don't need to worry. So I need pecan pie for my gingerbread man. Now let's ink him up quite nicely. And then I'm just going to layer him over the top. Oops. Peel him off. Okay. I've also got some eyes for him, so it's always handy. Again, I'm using pecan pie. So that's just going to go there. So those little eyes. It looks a little bit shocked, but hey. And then I've got my sentiment, which comes with the stamp set. And this basically says, look, baking spirits bright. And then, oops, upside down. There we are. Let's pop him onto there. There we are. And the only other thing to do is, if you want to, I'm going to ink up just a part of the Gingerbread Man. This is going to be on the back or the inside of the card for you to write your message. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have him peek. There we are. And then I'll give him his little eyes. There he is. And then that's what's going to be on the back of the card. So that's all the stamping done. Let's do the scoring. So let's put that there. And just bring in my red, my Poppy Parade. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to score him at 1 inch. Turn it around to 2 inches. And then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. 1 inch. And then 2 inches. Right. There we go. Bringing in my bone folder, I'm going to burnish. So you're going to push the first score, the one that's nearest to the middle, away. And the same on the other side. And then you're going to bring the other one towards yourself. And then the same on that one. Okay, so what you've done is you've pushed the first score line away from you and you've brought the second score line towards you. And that gives you that bounce. Now it's time to pop your designer series paper. So you have 1 and 2. So making sure if you do have a pattern that it follows it. So that's going to go there. Follow that down. And the same with this one. And it will follow suit. And then you're going to do the same on the other side, making sure the pattern follows, which it does. It's gone very dark in here, even though the lights, my overhead lights are on. Oh, it's winter for you, I suppose. I think it's trying to rain. I sit by a very large, bright window, but I think it's actually trying to rain, and that's why all of a sudden it's become very dark in here. So hopefully you can still see everything I'm doing. Right, so now we're going to stick our mossy meadow down. Just going to use my multi-purpose, she says. There we go. Perfect. Flip that over and that will sit there like so. Then we can put our embossed onto the top. Again, probably best to use your multi-purpose because then it can get onto all the parts that stick down, especially as it's so bobbly. And there's that one, like so. Make sure that's firmly down. I am going to stick my, actually before I do that, I'm going to turn that over and stick my inside inside. Stick my inside inside. Let's make sure we're going the right way. Yep, turn it over. And then he can peer inside. There we go. And then that will close like that. Right, our little gingerbread man can now sit on here. Now, obviously, his hand isn't rounded here, but that's why we've got the sweet, because the sweet will go there and cover up the, like so. So don't panic that you've got a straight edge and a rounded edge. Okay, so let's stick him down. And hold him for a couple of seconds to make sure that the glue sticks to the bubbles. So obviously you don't want that coming off. Right, now let's have a look. I'm going to give him a bow tie. So there is his bow. There is his end bit. And then I'm going to add that. I wonder if it needs to be red. Let's have a look. This is why I did two colours, you see. You have these bright ideas when you're prepping, and then you think, what if? So let's try the red. So there's the red bow. Oh, that seems to pop straight away, doesn't it? And there is the back of the bow tie. And then I'm going to add my little green bit in the second. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking the red looks better. Right, let's try that. So just one dot there. Pick up the base of your tie and pop it down. You could use glue dots if that makes life easier. Oops. Pop him down. Then you're going to put another dot just there. You're going to pick up your bow tie and you're going to add him to there. Hold him down till he sticks, and then one little dot onto there, and then you can pick up your other piece and that goes there. There we go. Come on, you. Lovely. So the next thing to add now is his sentiment, which we're going to use with dimensionals. I'm going to put one in the middle, one either end, like normal. One in the middle. And then I'm going to pop it down low. So A, that the bow tie shows, and B, that we can get the sweet in place. And I think I'm going to go for white with the red wheel. That looks the best. So what we're going to do now is going to put my glue just there. You can stick your sweet down. There we go. And then just a blob in the middle. Pick up your wheel with your pick tool and you can just pop it down, hold it for a couple of seconds while it sticks. If you want to, you could always put a little glue dot, not a glue dot, a bit of bling on there. Let's see if I've got any bling that we could try that with. Let's try. I've got these. Oh, I'll tell you what. Let's try these. They're quite sweet. These are the adhesive backed metallic gems that come with the ornamental Christmas bundle. And I just want a tiny one. So I'm just going to use, oh, do we use silver or gold? Let's see, probably gold. Let's pop him just on the middle there. Look at that, perfect. I'm liking that. Let's pop that back in. And there is our funky fold. Quite a quick funky fold for Friday. Come here, you move over. Thank you very much. You can then fold him like this and just burnish, reinforce the bone with the bone folder. So there is our red version, and here is our green version. So I hope you like those. I think that the Gingerbread Man bundle is great fun. It's one that's going to definitely be added to my stash for things to do when with the grandchildren. So as I say, supplies are in the details below on my YouTube channel. If you want them and you're looking at it, the video through Facebook, don't fear, just go to my link in my bio and that will take you there as well. So thank you ever so much for joining me this week, and I will be back next Monday. So do join me then. Take care. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.